a few housekeeping things before I turn it over to Mr. Scott. There, at the end of it, we will have some surveys that we'll ask you all to fill out. Please do so, just to let us know any programs you love to see here. And the restrooms are going to be out here to the right. So you didn't come here to see me speak. So I'm happy to welcome Mr. Tony Scott, author of Overcoming Imposter Syndrome.
Thank you all for coming out. The irony of a speech about overcoming imposter syndrome, and we'll get into this, is that mine is prime. So if you saw just a few seconds ago, closed my eyes, took a deep breath, said my thoughts and my requests to my creator, and then here we are. So I am getting blind already. So periodically I'll be coming back to my notes, which are like in 18-point font, because that 10 and 12 doesn't work anymore. But again, thank you for coming out. I'm sorry, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
2025 was a phenomenal year in all aspects for myself and for my lovely wife, Carmen. My journey as an author started at its earliest, I would say, in 2014. But yeah, 2014, that's when I first put understanding that I was talking, ironically, as I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. The Qs, as many people know, that's my boss list. My president, Earl Lee, just walked in, also my fellow veteran, so thank you for being here. But he walked in at a very serendipitous moment, because I started writing this book with the expectation that I was leaving it for my younger fraternity brothers from a mentoring standpoint, giving them tips and strategies to navigate, thinking that I had it figured out. When I came time to start writing it, it took from 2014 to 2025. Actually, New Year's night on December 31st, 2024, we were in Vegas, and I said we could not go out and enjoy the night until I pressed enter on that keyboard to release it. And we actually got it out at 9 o'clock because Carmen was going to beat me silly if I did not. So there'll be a lot of stories about how she abuses me. You'll see me later. So Harold, I need help. Yes, sir. Sheriff Harold Patel. But in all sincerity, so I just want to kind of set expectations what this conversation is going to be like. And it will be a bit of a conversation, but we're definitely going to leave time at the end for question and answers. I want right now, I don't want you to actually say anything. I don't want you to raise your hands, even if you need to close your eyes to focus. I do that a lot. I'm going to ask you 3 questions so you can start meditating on them. And then we're going to circle back to them in a few minutes, and I'm going to ask them again. And then if you feel comfortable and safe, because there's nobody here but us and our cell phones and that recorder that'll go on YouTube and social media, but that's it. It's only those few things. So totally safe and secure space. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Again, don't feel the need to speak on it yet. Don't raise your hands. First, do you know what imposter syndrome is? That's the first question. Second, has it manifested, past tense or present, in your life? That's the second question. Third question, if it has manifested in your life, how do you think that it has impacted your professional development or your career? So again, do you know what imposter syndrome is? Has it manifested or is present in your life now? And how has it shown up in your career? I wrote this book, so I want to be clear. The first book, Unlocking Potential, Imposter Syndrome is a chapter in that book. But I started realizing that it was so pervasive that was so prevalent in our lives. We have people of different ages, colors, sex, probably religions, socioeconomic backgrounds in this room, but there's a space where it could have shown up for everybody. And I started appreciating how much of a hold, a grasp it had on me. I'll get to my story in a minute. Ebony asked me, did I want a formal introduction? I wanted to kind of talk through it because I never want to start with where I am. I want to start with where I came from to give perspective. First chapter in the book is my story because I didn't want to write something and people see where I am, not appreciate where I came from. So who I wrote this book from, for. Coffee ain't working yet. Praise God, it's gonna manifest. Anyway, who I wrote this book for, pretty much 4 categories. And these aren't exhaustive, it could be more than this. But I just spoke about our differences a moment ago, right? So in those differences, you have people, you may be marginalized based on your appearance, your sexual preference, race, socioeconomic. All of those things may make you marginalized. Or if you were the first or the only in the rooms that you're in, that's another category of people that tend to find imposter syndrome just overwhelming, constricting. There's 4. I don't want to go to the notes, they're there. So we got marginalized, the first and only, high achievers. You would think actually as a high achiever that you would have a certain level of protection, but to the contrary, the more you know, the higher a standard or expectation you put on yourself. Never mind what society has put upon you, but yourself. I pride myself on being able to do these things. Oh, duh. First generation professionals. I should remember that because that's part of my story. Actually, let me get to my story. So again, make it clean since I messed up a little bit. First generation professionals, marginalized people based off of whatever category or categories you feel fit you. High achievers. And then the 4th was, I'm about to forget it again. I done switched the order and forget it. Marginalized, first generation. What am I forgetting? Y'all listening? There you go. Because he's a high achiever. My story. I am a product of born in Cleveland, raised in East Cleveland, so I'm a product of the East Cleveland school system, graduated from Shaw High School. I was smart but lazy. I was. Like, how can you be in honors English and fail English, go to summer school, and then later go get a degree in English? That was me. And if anybody knows about the Upward Bound program, I was in that at the same time. So I'm in Upward Bound in case while I'm sitting in the basement of Shaw High School, because that's where they had the special kids. And I was in the special kids room. I wasn't eating erasers, but the kids next to me were. So I don't know who actually was worse than the other. Then I went and joined the Marines. And then I became the eraser eater. Great experience, but it had an unintended consequence on me. Actually, let me go back. I had developed anger growing up. We were largely poor, social benefits at intermittent periods growing up. My mother, God bless the dead, suffered from a host of mental health illnesses. So as soon as I was old enough to be aware, then that's the first time I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. Back in the night, so I'm about to this is for my fellow people of color in the room. They're gonna look at me like you ain't supposed to tell secrets, but I'm gonna give a secret here for relevance. Black people are mean to each other. I was light-skinned, had curly hair, was articulate, so I was marginalized for that. Even so, I'm a nomad in my own respective community, thinking I'm trying to be white. I live in East Cleveland. There's no way in the world that I'm confused about who I am or where I come from. But that was still one of the things. Mind you, we're talking about the formative years of an adolescent, so I'm navigating that. So you take those things, and then I already mentioned the missteps in high school educationally. So then, I actually got into college without applying. I felt I wasn't college material. My guidance counselor applied for me, and I never took the ACT to this day. She was able to use my PACT scores and got me into college, and I have the quickest dropout rate probably that Cleveland State has ever seen. I was too preoccupied with things that I thought made me a grown-up that did not. So, Marines will take me though. I could sign my name. I was angry, so that worked. So I go into the Marines and I actually start developing into a decent leader. But the unintended consequence is, this was 90 to 98, so this is what I affectionately call Daddy's War. So I'm in the middle of Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Endure Hope, Endure Freedom, and Southern Watch. So I'm in the middle of everything. So what's now happening is my anger and my, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, turns out later I do have a host of different diagnoses and meds that I take. And my wife takes them from me and I wander around the house lost and confused and she beats me. But that normally gets me back together. So that's her way of getting me off those meds. So, but turns out that ends up giving me yet another diagnosis of PTSD. And I didn't learn about these things at that point. It's only within the last 5 to 8 years. So I'm kind of skipping around a little bit to frame the context. Actually, let me get ahead. I'm talking about me too much, so I'm sorry. So fast forward, come home, eventually get my stuff together. Mom endures her complete breakdown while I'm in law school. Oh yeah, before that, graduated from undergrad with a degree in English, a master's in public administration, and then went to law school. And while in law school, was graduated, did well for myself, came home, started studying for the bar, passed the bar the first time. I was blessed. Had a job at a law firm, 6-figure, which for me was always an interesting juxtaposition. Social service benefits at Shaw and Euclid, firm 6 figures on Euclid. So, but at the same time, I was my mother's caregiver. I neglected to mention, my first year of law school, she had a breakdown and never lived by herself again after that. After, unfortunately, multiple suicide attempts. So all this I'm navigating while trying to become this new version. Fast forward, you just skip ahead with respect to time. So fast forward, I'm living this life, which outside looks fine, but inside, I'm a simmering pot of mess. So I'm making it to these opportunities, but I don't know how the hell I'm making it. Why are these opportunities coming to me? Oh, they need a black guy. Oh, I just fill a quota. They want the Marine because I can be rough. That's part of the initiatives, the symptoms, traits, and behaviors, and I'll get to that in a minute, associated with the deflection, basically. So, happy ending. Eventually, I got my stuff together. I wrote a post a couple of months ago. I said, who knew writing a book about imposter syndrome would actually cure it? Who knew? Didn't cure it, manage it. So, I'm telling you all of this, and there's a lot more that's in chapter 1, because as I said, I can't talk to anybody about this without advancing my own. MD is not one of the titles behind me, so I wrote the book from my lived experience, and I interviewed about 15, 17 other people and incorporated their lived experiences into the respective chapters, so that it's not just me blabbering on like I'm doing right now. As you're reading it, it's other people's perspectives. That having been said, I want to go back to those questions. The first question, raise your hand if you're comfortable. Who in here knows what imposter syndrome is? Raise your hand. Okay. All right, and we're going to spend a little bit of time on this. It's a clinical definition. I'm not going to bore you with that. The bottom line is when you are navigating imposter syndrome, despite what you've accomplished in your career, your personal life, your credentials, your resume, you're waiting for the shoe to drop. Constantly. You feel like you're a fake. You feel like you're a fraud, like you're not real. In any given moment, somebody's gonna figure it out. And you're gonna be out. That's imposter syndrome. That's imposter syndrome. If you're comfortable, has anyone experienced imposter syndrome? Raise your hand. I appreciate that. Statistics suggest about 70% of us have experienced it. I question the validity of that statistic though, for two things. One, it takes the ability to admit it, which requires a lot of vulnerability and can rip the Band-Aid off a lot of trauma. I only learned, and it made sense as soon as someone said it. My wife and I both were speakers at a conference in August. And it was a women's conference primarily, and the ladies kept saying it was so surprising that a man was speaking on this. And the first time they said it, I didn't understand it. But then that person explained it, immediately made sense. As men, right, we're strong. We always have to show up. We gotta show up for our community, our family, at our job, Marine, cop. Ain't no room for crying. Ain't no room for weakness. There is, and not weakness, but vulnerability. But that's our perception, right? That's our perception. Women, y'all gotta admit, you don't want a weak man. And weak by a societal standard of what they might want to suggest as weakness. I don't mean vulnerable. I don't mean someone that cries. And I like to tell you, I cry in movies. Holiday season, October. I just be sitting. But that's not weakness. That's vulnerability, which is a big difference. But we're not, as men, we're not socialized to appreciate that difference. So we don't show that part of ourselves. So if we don't show it, how can we actually know we're impacted by it? And then the other part is honestly the fear of doing the work, right? You want to start navigating through your imposter syndrome, you got to identify the trauma, you have to navigate through it, which means you got to unearth it, you got to dig it up, get your hands dirty like you're in soil, and then be able to navigate it or overcome it, as the book title. So the third question, let's see if anyone answers this one. If you have in fact been impacted by imposter syndrome, how do you think it's impacted your professional development or personal development or your career? Anyone want to tap in on that one?
For me, I'm an artist, and I find it really hard to advocate for myself enough to go to like shows and like show my good art. So I kind of like become my own like biggest hater in that way, where I'm not willing myself to sell myself.
Now the irony of being an artist, and I don't remember where I learned this, but there's two competing thoughts on being an artist. And that's that your work is for yourself or your work is for the consumer. In a perfect world, the two match, but I fully get it. I do graphic. I actually designed those two covers. I didn't design the next one. Well, my wife helped me with the first one. I didn't give credit where credit is due. But I designed it, but then there's this constant thing, did I do it right? Or your writing. Your writing is that. I've started venturing into fiction writing, which has even been harder, because what I say was the first trauma, starting to bring yourself into it. You know, so it is hard to put yourself out there. So I can definitely appreciate navigating that duality of who is the art for and how do you show up.
Without knowing all of the details and all of the indicators, I think that it just makes you double down on proving that you are where you are and you belong there, and ensuring that you maybe overcompensate somewhat to make sure that there is no doubt that you're not just at the table for whatever reason, but you're there because of ability, education, experience, etc.
You find yourself always questioning if you're good enough and feeling like you gotta navigate 8 hours to do something that would have taken 2 hours. Now the irony, particularly for those of us that are attorneys, and I don't want to dismiss that from anyone else's role, but as an attorney, you're sitting there doing billable hours, you know, or even as a government attorney, you don't have billable hours, but there's still an expectation that you're turning it out. Man, I remember this one I had to do what's known as a document review, and they gave me no instruction. They sent me in a warehouse in Akron, and then like 2 weeks later, they're like, "Where are you?" It's like, "I'm still here." Every day, they was like, "Why? We thought that would take X, Y, Z." There was no mentorship, no clear instruction. You say, "Go look at the documents." I looked at the documents. I got my butt handed to me for that, and they ended up writing off an exceptional amount of hours, but I didn't know. And I feel like I need to find, this is that quintessential Perry Mason moment, right? It's a simple case, Perry Mason moment. But I need to figure this out. I got the smoking gun. I ain't got no smoking gun. I just had like 3 notepads, a cramped hand, and about a week and a half worth of time written off as I got scolded. So it served no purpose. But that's me overcompensating and afraid to ask for help. So actually, right for that part right there, I'm gonna go into, I wanna change this order just a little bit. I wanna talk about, there's 5 types of imposter syndrome. And an older cousin, the 6th type. So, it'll make sense in a moment. The perfectionist. And you'll notice some of these there's space for them to overlap. Understand, this is not an exact science. There is science to it, and I'll talk about the science, but in case in the interest of time we didn't get to it, I wanted to get to this part first. The perfectionist. If I make a mistake, I don't belong. Me and my experience in the warehouse for 2 weeks, clearly, if I made a mistake. Anybody else lived in that space? In a store they're comfortable sharing. Again, safe space other than the NSA in that recording, which will be on YouTube.
Every day.
Okay. You want to talk about it?
You know, I am a perfectionist no matter what. I always want to do right. And I'll take 20 hours just to make sure it gets right.
Mm-hmm. Is it ever fully right? Never.
Took me a while. I'll be 65, but it took me a while to figure that out. But I like to do things the right. If it ain't right, I don't want to do it.
I fully appreciate that. My wife sent me a video today. I'm a Virgo, she's a Taurus. It was a long video explaining about how we both get to the same resolution, but the way I do it is just this epitome of perfection and efficiency, and it's gotta be this. I'm sitting there with a measurement, looking like Tim Toolman Taylor, got my tongue hanging out my mouth with a level. You like, you're ready to let her stop. Whereas she's just like, yep, we're here, it's good, and go. It's just what we do. The superhero. I have to outwork everyone. I'm gonna be the first one here, the last one to leave. I'm not taking lunch, and if I do, I'm at my desk doing it. Superhero. If you're not giving it 125,000%, you're a failure. You don't belong here, and they'll see right through you. The natural genius. If I struggle at all, I'm not smart enough. The young lady I interviewed for that was someone that graduated high school early, was in college at like 16. She's Nigerian, so there was a rough standard of perfectionism that was put on her by her family, coupled with her self-imposed natural genius, and then she failed the bar exam. She lost her identity. She worked for the courts. They loved her to death, but they had to move her out of the position she was in into another position. Crumbled her. Now, it was a happy story in that she took it the second time, was fine, and is now practicing, finding her self-identity, or her renewed identity, I presume. But yeah, she was walking around just moping for quite some time after that. The soloist. If I ask for help, there's something wrong with me. If I gotta ask for help, I don't belong here. They'll see through it. They'll say, well, what did we hire you for? We gotta answer it for you. Could have just asked the person that actually knew. That was me very badly. The expert. The expert. The expert, get one more degree. Gotta write one more paper. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. I have to keep accumulating the trophies to validate, not only validate myself, but to prove to them I belong. That one wasn't me. What is it? So I forgot to say, the first time I applied for law school, I got denied. Applied to 3 schools, got denied for all 3. Instead of it destroying me, thankfully, well, okay, there was like 3 days. All I did was I sat at home, played Sega Genesis, ate pizza, didn't wash. It was bad. Like I didn't have a beard at that point, but that's I think when it started, and it's just kept growing since then. And when that was said and done, 3 days. I'm a spiritual person, so I love the number 3. 3 days, got myself together, went down to Cleveland State, applied to the Levin College of Urban Affairs, wanted to start bolstering my GPA, because I rationalized why I didn't get in. I mean, I took accountability, but I rationalized it. There were so many things I didn't do right in that process, because why? I don't like asking for help. And it was a first generation college graduate. First generation. So who am I at? All of that. Remember I said they're not exclusive. They're not exhaustive. They can commingle to find ways to latch on to the trauma that you're dealing with without even knowing that you're dealing with it yet. You don't even know that you're dealing with it yet. So, but that's it. That's the expert. I need to get more and more credentials. Oh, and the cousin. Call it has-been syndrome. The person that I interviewed for that part of the disorder was a former football player. Got injured. His identity, even after his injury, was still out there being seen. I gotta do this, I gotta be flashy, I gotta be here, I gotta be there. He's front, right? You know, it's a song, he's front, he was fake. Eventually it came to catch up to him though, because he was getting stagnant. It took his dad to kind of call him on it like, that injury didn't end you, you're ending yourself, right? You're the one that need to re-navigate. Is that a word? It is now. Re-navigate how you're moving. So in that space, by now, and there was some humility that emerged after that for him. He started working with a real estate developer, and he didn't come into the boss position. He came in, intern essentially. He had to work his way up. But then he did. And then he started getting involved in some projects. And then he started being able to be the project manager to lead development through concept to completion. And he branched out on his own. So he was no longer TJ. I use fictitious names, even for people that were willing to. I wanted to just keep it neat, so I think TJ is what we called him. That he was no longer TJ, the ex-ball player. He was TJ, the developer, and he didn't live. He wasn't trapped in that what I used to want to be. So I want to be cognizant of time. In the interest of time, so I do want to point out there is a physiological piece to this too. It's not just you in your head. There is a scientific understanding. Our brains, with all the great things that science has given us, our brains are largely still in the Cro-Magnon state. I mean, some of us act like it, but that's not what I meant. Fight or flight is real. Survival versus success is real. Our amygdala, part of our little brain housing group, our amygdala is what's focused on fear, on survival, instinctive. That's what gets you like this, where you're ready. My guys can appreciate this, where you're immediately coming in and you're assessing the room. Ain't nobody trolling. I'm talking about what you can navigate. What you can navigate. You have to understand, and I appreciate you saying what your experiences are, because that's a very real one. Can I be my authentic self? If you feel you can't be your authentic self, why? Again, society aside, what within you is precluding you from being yourself? That's when you start understanding how imposter syndrome is holding you back. You can't, I won't get into that. Just, that's a whole nother conversation. So you have to identify that there is an issue. You're not even at the point where you know what the issue is. You identify there's an issue. Once you acknowledge it, then you need to start figuring out the source. What's the origin of that issue? Again, for me, I started paying attention to them. I started realizing maybe about 8 years ago, I started kind of waking up. And it was just like, I created this persona. In my mind, I created this persona in my 20s that was more confident. That was out there, that was the guy I wanted to be. And on the exterior, I was him. It's only been within like the last 2 years that I realized, like, wait, if I've been pretending to be this guy longer than I'm actually was that other guy, then I'm actually not pretending. I'm this guy. This fictitious version, I had to put on a mask, I had to put on the armor and step out there, realizing, yeah, under the armor, you're still Tony Stark. You might get your ass whooped a little bit more without your armor, but you're still Iron Man. So I started identifying what was the trauma. I didn't really like myself. I didn't appreciate the value that I brought to people, places, things, situations. And I realized that regardless of what the resume said, I didn't feel like that guy. And that's when I learned, like, oh, this is that imposter syndrome thing. So I started digging into it deeper. Because now it's got a name, right? Now it's got a name. You can research it. You can learn about it. You can call it by its name and attack it. And that attack, that's the hard part. That attack. Because then you got to identify the trauma. You got to know something's wrong. You know its name now, so you learn how to combat it. Starting to sound like a little church in here, right? You start knowing how to combat it, and then you got to go at it. You got to identify what that trauma is and go at it. And it's not easy. How do you navigate that I have never felt good enough? that, fuck, I'm crazy. I literally have a diagnosis. That's how I was thinking about it. And I avoided it for years, thinking that I was less than, rather than confronting it, understanding where it comes from, and how do I move through it. And having the humility to say, I need therapy. I need to spend more time in religious observance. I need maybe to have medications for a season or hereafter to grow to be what y'all see me to be. Does that make sense? That's the hard part. But the beauty of it is when you're on the other side of it, you actually now, you know that thing by its name. And then that's when you start putting in the work to hold it at bay. You know your triggers. My wife knows my triggers at this point. She knows what sets me off. I'm not talking about her being serious. I'm not talking about her, but in situations. And now, because I've now learned to be vulnerable, she knows how to protect me when I'm not in a position to protect myself. We were in Puerto Rico for New Year's, and we had a chance to be right in the middle of where they do the Dick Clark ball drop, Ryan Seacrest. We were outside and in other places around it because that would have been triggering to me to be in the midst of all of that. And she was cool with it, so you know, before that. Go grab a cigar, call a friend, take a nap if that's your thing. Sit down and start writing. That's why the writing has been cathartic for me. So I've enjoyed going into the fiction space because I'm writing stuff that attorney Anthony W. Scott would not write. But T. Scott, yeah, right there. So, see, the wall's there. That's how close I still instinctively hug the wall that is right there on me. But so again, recognize something doesn't feel right. And I don't want to minimize it like it's that quick, it's that instinctive, but it's a process. Listen to others telling you. Listen to yourself. Meditate, be quiet. Listen to your spiritual self if you're a spiritual person. So again, identify that something's wrong, and once you do, find out what it is. Once you know what it is, then you start unearthing it. You start digging it. You start understanding its origin. You start understanding the etymology, the root of it, and start trying to navigate it so that once you know what it is, you know how to be cognizant of your triggers and you know how to de-escalate and then come back. And some of that, I talk about confidence in the book, and I'll just be, confidence is not innate. I want to be clear. It's not something that you're born with like your left or right arm. It's something that you build, you hone, you develop. So those 20, 30 years, I thought I was building something else. I did. I didn't build a new person, I built confidence. To the point where now I'm actually okay going in the room and negotiating my salary. I'm okay saying, nah, I'm not gonna take this project because it's gonna take more of my time than what it's gonna compensate. That's how it shows up in our career. One of the books, one of the people I interviewed was someone who is an attorney. She went to California, didn't pass the bar exam, unfortunately. Actually, even before that, when she was here, she wasn't that confident. She started her own practice and the world was like, yeah, girl, go. She was like, no, I just didn't get a job anywhere else. So I just saw an opportunity. But then she also didn't get out and hustle. So she never made a fraction of what she could because she was scared to present herself. So didn't pass the bar in California when she moved. She ended up taking a role as she was doing bankruptcy, which she thought was gonna last for at most 5 years. She did it for like 18 years. You know, because she was always scared to represent herself. And unfortunately for her, she still hasn't found that footing because now she's doing, she works in, as an official term for it, but essentially a law librarian. And she's done that for a while. She's at a good firm, but she's getting passed over even within that firm. And she's still not advocating herself for herself as we're reading it. But ironically, she teaches Zumba as a side profession. So you okay out there doing that? But so the part I neglected, that's actually situational imposter syndrome, right? Sometimes it's pervasive, it's everything you do. Sometimes it shows up when you gotta do that presentation or you're trying to advocate for that new position. You don't have the confidence developed. You don't understand that this is one of your short-sighted spots that you need to step back, recalibrate, and figure out how you're gonna come into that space. One of the last points I wanna bring up, I've referenced my wife, but understand, aside from her being my spouse, that means she's part of my support system. You have your mentors, your friends, family. That's your support system. Those are people that can actually, if you're open to it, can call you on your BS. And they can help you say, come on now. What are you seeing when they see? Sometimes they'll cheer you on, they'll build you up, and sometimes they're gonna humble you too. Because sometimes what we say as we're rationalizing our excuses is complete bull. Well, I don't really want the job. I mean, I don't want to apply, and then they say you don't get it. They don't think I ain't happy. You rationalize it. You're rationalizing. That's one of the symptoms, being overly humble, self-deprecating, like, oh man, I just got lucky. No, you didn't. You did the damn work. You did the work, own it humbly. I appreciate your compliments. It's a blessing to be able to do this work. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. Thank you. Or, man, that was great. Well, you know what? The team did it all. And that's great to give, show love to your team, right? That's a leader. But there's a line. If you're always passing it beyond what you've done, what you've accomplished, what was your contribution. I ain't talking about that leader that never leaves the office that ain't doing nothing. I'm talking about a true leader. You in the mud with your team trying to make this right. You're working 8 hours past the end of the quitting time because you got a deadline the next day. Take your flowers. Take your flowers. You did that work. And not only did you do the work, but you helped lead a team. You had 2 jobs. You had 2 jobs, then take credit for it. Because that's part of you building yourself up to be able to navigate everything else that's coming at you. So again, I'm gonna recap and we'll do some Q&A as time allows. Appreciate this. I'm about to sound like a Tony Robbins or something right now. You are enough. No, I'm being silly, but it is real. You are enough. Go after that. I don't know if you heard, if I said this to Ebony when I was talking about working a 5 to 9 and a 9 to 5 and a 5. Dreams cost. Dreams cost. If you want to do better for you, or if you're legacy minded, you want to do better for who's after you, it costs. Part of you paying for that is making sure you're good. So don't allow societal perceptions, epigenetics, undefined or unaddressed trauma to hold you back. Dream it. Dream it, do the work, navigate it, and then understand how to regulate that physical and or mental trauma that's holding you back. So, that's it. I'll go to Q&As if there's any. I welcome, and then obviously we have books if anyone is interested. But thank you for coming out. I appreciate it. I love seeing head nods and people thinking like, yeah, that's the one I love. You do that one. So I love seeing that. So thank you.
Thank you.
My wife wrote it all. She was just good. She wrote the book. She wrote all of it.